Good morning, people. What's up, Joe? Chocolate, that's nobody. Michael, KP, Hype Litsky. Where you been hiding, dude? WDB, Super Troll in the house. Joseph Curry, Kaiser, Pigskin, Julio. What's up? Y'all watching that NFL game or no? It's halftime. Broncos and Chiefs, though. All right. Question and answer time. Anything you ever needed to know about Uncle Lou? Yep. Go ahead and ask if you want to. Yep. And I'll most likely answer for you. So. Oh, Squidtard. Hey, y'all see that comment from Squidtard? Click on him and sub to his channel. He makes some funny videos. Where will UJ be ranked in the college football poll? I think UJ will be ranked number 1 tomorrow. I think they have a very similar resume to Alabama with a better win. Alabama's dominated every team they've played with the exception of Texas A&M. UJ has dominated every team we've played with the exception of Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a much better win than anything that Alabama has. And for that reason, I think Georgia will be ranked number 1 in the first poll. Although the poll means nothing. It doesn't matter where Georgia or Alabama, either one are ranked. If Georgia and Alabama both go undefeated in the regular season, which I expect to happen, then whoever wins the SEC championship game is going to be the number 1 seed, period. The only question mark will be if the loser of that game remains in the top 4 or not. And it's hard to make a guess on that right now until we see what happens in the other conferences. I don't think any 2-loss team, even if they win their conference title game, I don't think any 2-loss team would jump ahead of whoever loses the Georgia-Alabama SC championship game. But we'll see. Prediction for Georgia-South Carolina game, I think Georgia wins by 24 to 27 points, somewhere in there. This game won't be close. I think the spread is 22 or something like that. I think Georgia wins this one somewhere in the neighborhood of 24 to 27. South Carolina's probably a little bit better than I thought they would be this year. They're 6-2 right now. I think when I did my preseason preview on South Carolina, I said the basement for them was probably 5 wins, and the ceiling was probably 8 wins, and it looks like they have a pretty good chance of getting to 8 wins, depending on what happens when they play Florida. They're going to lose to Georgia. They're going to lose to Clemson. That puts them at, that would be 6-4. Their other 2 games are Wofford and Florida. They'll beat Wofford. So it's going to come down to that Florida game. So they're either going to finish 8-4 or 7-5. Who will win the Super Bowl in your opinion? In the preseason, I picked the Dallas Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen. And I'm not a Cowboys fan. And I'm really not that big of an NFL fan, to be honest. So whatever my pick is, if it's wrong or whatever, you can troll me on it if you want to. But I promise you I won't care. If I had to pick a team right now, I would probably say either Pittsburgh or Kansas City from the AFC. From the NFC, the NFC's tougher. Philadelphia looks good, but I don't know if I trust them in the playoffs. Minnesota looks good, but same thing. Don't know if I trust them in the playoffs. So not real sure. Let's see. Let's slow some of these comments down. Uncle Lou, this is Alex Andrews says, do you hate Georgia Tech down to the bone? I'm a Georgia Tech fan, and I thought you would at least like another Georgia team. I mean, I don't like Georgia Tech. They're not my most hated team. There is a large percentage of the Georgia fan base who would consider Georgia Tech to be our biggest rivalry. I'm not one of those people. The SEC to me is more important than anything we do against Georgia Tech. And there's a couple of reasons for that. We don't recruit head-to-head right now with Georgia Tech for a variety of reasons. The main reason being the type of offense that Georgia Tech runs. And I'm not going to get off on a rant here about Georgia Tech's offense. It is what it is. But the bottom line is they're recruiting a different kind of player for that team then Georgia is recruiting for our team. So the Georgia Tech game in terms of recruiting just doesn't mean what it used to mean in years past. I still like to beat Georgia Tech, but I would put them probably 5th or 6th on my list right now in terms of rivalries. Can LSU give Alabama a game? I think if LSU can slow down Alabama's running backs, I mean, this is going to be probably the same thing you'll hear on ESPN, but if LSU can find a way to slow down Harris and Scarborough and contain Hurts from running around and make Alabama try to throw the ball, that obviously is the formula to beating Alabama. I do think that this will be the best defense that Alabama has played this year. There's no way I'm picking LSU to win this game. LSU is just too inconsistent, and I'm not a believer in Ed Orgeron. So I think Alabama will win this game, but I do think this will be the best defense that Alabama has played. Caleb says, can we talk about doubling Kirby Smart's salary so he doesn't get poached? Well, Kirby's not getting poached. It's sort of a weird situation with Kirby. Usually coaches have to work their way up through 4 or 5 jobs to land a major job or their dream job or whatever. Kirby landed his first time out. So I don't see Kirby leaving voluntarily. I do expect us to give Kirby a raise and an extension after this year, but not to keep him, but just because he deserves it. But it's not like Kirby is looking to leave Georgia to go to a better school. There's not that many better coaching jobs in America than Georgia. Georgia's a top 10 coaching job. High school talent is everywhere here. He went to school at UGA. He's from Georgia. He's not looking to leave, but he does deserve a raise and an extension for what he's done this year. Tennessee it's going down in Tennessee for real says, if Herschel was put in today's college game, would he do as well or better than Saquon, Chubb, Love, etc.? I think he would probably do. Well, first of all, you mentioned Saquon, and let me say this about Saquon Barkley. I do think he's the best player in college football this year. He's not the best running back, and the numbers proved that. But he does a lot more than your typical running back. He's a great receiver. I mean, he's got 500-600 receiving yards. He's a an elite return man. So he's leading the country in all-purpose yards. But in terms of just pure running back, Saquon's not even top 10 in college, in my opinion. If Herschel played today, I don't think he would have the numbers that he had in 1980 for a lot of different reasons. Number one, running backs don't run the ball 30 and 40 times a game anymore like they used to. They just don't. Teams pass a lot more. Take Georgia, for example. Even as little as we passed the ball this year, which we hardly ever passed the ball this year, we still pass it more than we did in 1980 when we had Herschel. So I just think the game is too different to try to fast forward him into today's time and see how he would do. I do think Herschel's the greatest college football player of all time. That's not a homer opinion. I mean, you can look up any list on the internet of greatest college football players of all time, and Herschel's number one on every single list you can find, no matter who puts the list out. Let's see. Aaron Taddy says, will Jacob Eason transfer to the high-level talent at quarterback? I do think Jacob Eason will transfer. I'm not mad or upset about it. I don't want to use the. I don't know. It's not that I feel sorry for Eason or anything like that. I mean, look, this is big-time college football, and things happen. Injuries happen. People lose their job every day. It seems to get a lot more attention when a quarterback loses his job to the backup, but starters lose their job all the time to backups. But the reality of the situation is the guy was the number one recruit in America coming out of high school. I thought he did pretty good his freshman year, considering what he had to work with, which was one of the worst offensive lines in the SEC. A first-year coach, first-year head coach, first-year coordinator, entirely new staff at UGA. I mean, we weren't a very good team last year, and I thought Eason did really all you could expect him to do with the team that we had last year. I hate that anybody gets injured. I hate that he got injured, but I obviously don't regret the way this season has turned out in terms of UGA. But I do think Eason transfers. It won't upset me. I think he deserves a shot to start somewhere. And the next question will be, where is he going? And I would probably guess back to the West Coast. So take your pick of one of those garbage Pac-12 teams, and my guess would be that's where he goes. Let's see. Drew Carpenter, Lou, will you make a playoff poll tomorrow? Yeah, I'm going to have to do 2 videos tomorrow. I had some stuff come up today. And I couldn't do the video this morning like I wanted to do. So I'll do 2 tomorrow. I'll do the UJ South Carolina video tomorrow, and I'll do the UNCLELOU poll tomorrow. So yes. CTG Gaming says South Carolina is losing to Georgia 28-48. I would be surprised if South Carolina scored 28 points. It could if they get their passing game going. I guess it's possible that could happen, but I don't see it happening. Pretty much every game this year that I've guessed the Georgia score, the team has scored less points than I guessed. So I guess the defense is better even than what I'm normally expecting them to be. Yari 18 every day. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Would you rather have me donate or sponsor you? You can do either. It's up to you. I don't ever ask people to donate or sponsor. Sometimes people do it, but I don't ever ask them to. But I would appreciate whatever you do. Let's see. Georgia Dog says, I love your channel. Thank you, sir. I love doing it. I'm not a creative person at all in terms of like traditional art. Like even when I was a kid, like I can barely draw a stick figure. Like my kids will want me to, they'll have homework where they have to draw something or do something artsy or whatever, and I'm just terrible at it. I've never had any artistic ability at all. But with this YouTube thing, I'm able to find some creativity in myself, which is something new and different for me. So look, none of y'all know me. I get it, but you're probably not going to believe this. But if you ever met me in real life, I'm probably one of the most shy people you would ever meet, which is a little strange considering some of the things I've done here on YouTube. Ryan Francis wants to know the Heisman favorite. I think right now is Saquon Barkley's to lose. I like Bryce Love, too, out of Stanford, but he's got an injury issue. He missed a game last week. That could hurt him in the Heisman race. I think Baker Mayfield still has a shot. He's probably the best quarterback right now, so I think he's got a shot. If I had to get if they were going to send 3 people to New York right now, 3 finalists right now, I think it would be Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley, and Bryce Love from Stanford. Let's see. Tina Hardy says, did you hear that Georgia's now #1 in the country? Well, there are some power rankings and things like that have Georgia listed as #1. Georgia's not #1 in either major poll. They're #2 in the AP poll and the coaches poll. But in the coaches poll, they finally gave Georgia some first-place votes. Alabama's been getting all the first-place votes for about a month now. Georgia's at #2 there, and they finally took some first-place votes away from Alabama this week. And then tomorrow when a playoff poll comes out, it won't surprise me at all if Georgia's #1 in that playoff poll. Rover Sports. Lou, would you put Easton in if UJ can't move the ball against Bama? I'm in a lot of Georgia groups, and that topic comes up a lot and all the time. And you have a couple of different theories on this here. You have some people who have known Fromm since he was in middle school and went to watch him play in the Little League World Series and basically worship Jake Fromm and think he can do no wrong, and he's Jesus incarnated and he's the next Tom Brady. And they think that we're just purposely hiding Jake Fromm's elite passing ability from teams like Auburn and Alabama so that when our run gets shut down, we can unleash Jake Fromm on the world and he'll proceed to set it on fire. That's one theory. You have the second theory, which is we can run the ball on any team in America. We don't need to pass the ball. Auburn and Alabama might have good defenses, but they haven't seen a running game like Georgia, and they're not going to be able to stop it. That's the second theory. And then you have the Eason theory, which is basically the rotating quarterback theory, that if we get in a situation where we have to throw the ball or a 2-minute situation at the end of a game, or we fall behind by 14 points, that the coaches will just yank Frome and put Eason in the game. Those are the three popular theories. Let's see. Your boy Joe, what was your favorite Georgia game ever? I do a lot of videos on those kind of topics in the off season, Joe. The best game I've ever been to, or my favorite game I've ever been to, was 2000 or 2001. We played Tennessee in Athens, and the goalpost got tore down. I was at that game. I jumped the hedges. I was on the field. I high-fived Quincy Carter right on the 50-yard line. I mean, that was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So that's by far the best game I've ever been to. Tina Hardy says, I love you. You're awesome. I love your heart and attitude. Thanks, Tina. Dayton Guido. Boy, y'all come up with some names on here, don't you? Can Carolina make the upset? Anything can happen. But the fact that this game is in Athens makes me feel a lot better. And this just isn't the same UGA team that we've seen in years past. Rick was known for blowing a game or two every year that he shouldn't lose. But typically in those years, we weren't beating people by 30 and 40 points a game either. So even if we were to have a bad game against Carolina, I would consider it a letdown if we beat Carolina by 10 points. Whereas in years past, a letdown would mean we would lose these types of games. Score prediction, if I had to say right now on the USC junior game, I would say something like, I don't know, let's go with 34-10. Richard Griffin, I actually prefer Frome as a decision maker over Easton, and I really like them both as long as Ramsey doesn't. Yeah, Ramsey's a disaster. I mean, you can't really look. I don't have anything bad to say about Frome, and if you've been following me for a while, then you know I was a huge Eason supporter, and there was a lot of things that went into that. I was so sick of the Hudson Mason, Grayson Lambert. Shoot, I'm leaving one out. Hudson Mason, Grayson Lambert, whoever we had the year. Anyway, I was so sick of all that. I had a lot of high hopes for Jacob Eason, and he had some huge moments for us last year. He won the Missouri game for us, late touchdown pass. Even some of the games we lost, he played good in. He had over 300 yards against Vanderbilt. We just couldn't get it in the end zone. So he did some good things, but it just is what it is. He got hurt. Frome's came in where we got on a roll. It made it impossible for Smart to take him out at that point. Grant Ewing wants to know where I think Jacob Eason might transfer. West Coast, Washington State, UCLA, something like that would be my guess. He's from the West. He's from Washington. My guess would be he transferred somewhere out there. Chocolate Poof says UJ versus Alabama. Will this team be it, or will we have to wait for the Rare Breed 18 team next year? I think Georgia has as good an opportunity this year to beat Alabama as they will next year or the year after. I'm done with the wait till next year thing. We're losing the majority of our defense after this year. Now we've recruited well and we play a ton of people on defense. So it's not like we'll be putting a bunch of people on defense next year who've never played before. But there's a reason the people that are starting this year are starting, and that's because they're better than the ones that aren't starting. Now those ones that aren't starting can get better for next year, but I'm done with the next year. It's time to win now. Is Kentucky a trap game for UGA? Trap game for what? We play Georgia Tech the following week, so I'm not sure what. So no. Well, I have eyeglasses on instead of sunglasses. Philip Gaddy, you look different than you do in your other videos. Yeah, I have glasses on, regular glasses instead of sunglasses. Rover Sports, Dan Mullen or Chip Kelly to Florida. If I had to guess between those two, I would probably say Chip Kelly. Florida didn't want Dan Mullen 3 years ago when they got Jim McElwain, so I'm not sure why they would want him now. I know he's a Florida guy or whatever, and I don't think either one of those guys would succeed at Florida. Drew Carpenter, who's your favorite dog of all time? That's an almost impossible question for me to answer. If you want to just go with this century, players like David Pollock, Boss Bailey, Thomas Davis, Greg Blue, AJ Green. I like Noshawn Moreno. He's not high on a lot of people's list. But I liked him. I liked Rennie Curran. I liked Leonard Pope, tight end we had. It's hard for me to say just one favorite of all time. Jets fan 45. Lou, who are your top 5 most hated college football teams? South Carolina is number 1, and then the next 4 after that sort of vary from year to year. Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, Georgia Tech, I guess. Alabama man, there you are, buddy. Alabama man. Boy, this guy is big mad, and if you read the comment section, you'll see this Alabama man. He is some kind of mad, and he loves to let Uncle Lou know about it every day, but he wants to let me know that UGA sucks and will never beat Alabama. Of course, he's only been a fan since 2008, so he doesn't know that UGA beat Alabama 3 straight prior to Alabama beating us 3 straight. Of course, Alabama has a 3-game win streak on Georgia. He doesn't know that we beat them the 3 games prior to that because he just became a fan in 2008. Which player is still waiting to have a breakout game this season? Well, the tight ends have been waiting since game 1 to even catch a pass, it seems like. Unfortunately, that's most likely not going to happen this year. I could get into why, but it tends to piss off all the Jake Fromm people when I do that. But if you want me to get into it, I guess I will. The worst SEC team this year is Missouri. I don't think it's close. I think Arkansas would beat Missouri. Would you take the Tennessee job? No. And I'll tell you what else, I wouldn't take the Florida job either. Jim McElwain's the first SEC coach in history to win the division his first 2 years there. Yeah, he's having a bad year this year, but 10% of his scholarship players were suspended before the year. I don't understand what coach would take the job at Florida when they're pretty much telling you have to win the East every year or you're fired. Why do you wear the wanted glasses? Because I'm wanted. No, I don't know. I was on vacation somewhere and saw those and I bought them and I've just been wearing them ever since. Can you make a Butch Jones is the stupidest coach ever video? Thanks. Now Butch Jones made that comment. Now Butch, why would you want me to make a video about you, sir? What are you drinking, Lou? I'm actually drinking coffee because it's cold out here. Could anyone go to the draft early? Yes, a bunch of players on our defense. A bunch of juniors on our defense could be going to the draft. Stick 118 says Alabama's a way better program than UGA. Face it, Lou. Historically, I would have to agree. I can't argue with you there. Alabama has 10 or 11 real titles, 5 or 6 fake ones, so that's more than UGA. Now, Alabama claims national titles for years that they finished 3rd in the SEC and lost their bowl game. So if UGA wants to go back through its history and find every single year that we finished 3rd in the SEC and lost a bowl game, then we'd have a bunch of fake titles too. Where do you see James Cook fitting into the rotation next year? 3rd, 4th. It really depends what happens with Herring and Holyfield. I'd be surprised if we kept both Herring and Holyfield. I think one of them may transfer. Zeus and Swift will be your main running backs next year. Alabama man said he's been an Alabama fan since before you were born. No one believes that, sir. Eason wouldn't start for Washington. They have Browning. Well, Eason would have to sit out a year, and by then Browning would be gone. So, Lou, will you be attending the USC junior game? No, I will not, but I will be going to the Border Bash. If any of you guys know what that is, the Friday night before the Georgia and South Carolina game. They hold the big Border Bash event in Augusta, Georgia. The cheerleaders are there. The mascots are there. There's about 15 to 20,000 people there. Uncle Lou will be going to that again this year. So if some of y'all are there, I'll see you there. Chocolate Poof, why aren't the Razorbacks firing their coach? They can't afford it. The buyout is huge, and their athletic director, Jeff Long, has some sort of weird love affair with Burt Bielema. Andy Summers, who would win, Georgia 2007 versus Georgia 2017? Right now, I'm going to say Georgia 2007. I need to see Georgia finish out this year. Our toughest games are still ahead of us. So we'll see how this season finishes out. I do think that right now this 2017 team is probably the best team we've had since 2007, other than that 2012 team. Clemson Tigers says, do you see Kirby Smart as a Saban disciple or his own man? A little bit of both. I mean, you don't work for somebody. You don't work for the greatest. I mean, he's a defensive coach. Saban's a defensive coach. They worked hand in hand for a decade. You don't work hand in hand with a guy like that for a decade without taking some of that with you. So I think there's a lot of Saban in Kirby Smart, and you can see it in his press conferences, in some of the expressions he uses and things like that. But I think he's definitely his own person. I mean, he's adding his own personality and his own things to UGA. Is Dom Sanders the best safety in college? Nah, I wouldn't say that. He's really, really good, and he's got a knack for the ball for sure. He's about to break the UGA all-time interception record. I've been a Dom Sanders fan for years. I've liked him since he got to UGA. He's a playmaker. Dominic Sanders is a great example of somebody who plays over his ability. You have some players who come in that are really highly touted, 4 or 5 stars or whatever, and they never quite live up to that. Then you have other guys that come in as 3 or 4 stars and seem to exceed that. And Dom Sanders has played over his skis the entire time he's been at UGA. I'd take 11 Dominic Sanders on defense any day. I love his attitude, his toughness. He's smart. He understands the game. He's never out of position. He's a hell of a player, but I'm not sure if he's the best safety in college, so I don't know if I would go there. Law Tide, y'all beat us when we was down, Lou. Yeah, well, that's always Alabama's excuse. Anytime Alabama loses a game, it's because they were down. But then if Alabama beats somebody, it's just because Alabama was really, really good. So it is what it is. Oakland Ruxer, what are your thoughts on Kentucky? Kentucky, in the preseason, I thought Kentucky and Vanderbilt were going to be pretty much the same team. Vanderbilt was a little worse than I thought. Kentucky maybe a little bit better. No excuse for them losing that Florida game, though. That was pathetic and sad. Not only that they lost, but the way that they lost. And then to get blown out like they did against, was it Mississippi State? So I'm a little bit disappointed in Kentucky, especially after the way they started off. But I feel a lot better about playing Kentucky now than I did at the beginning of the year. Stephen Lindell, what do you think will happen with UJ's offense if Fields starts next season? Well, Fields won't start next season. I think Fields will get some playing time. I think they'll have some packages and some situations that they put him in. I don't think he'll redshirt, especially if Eason leaves. I don't think he'll redshirt. So I think maybe you'll see him like in some red zone situations. Certain packages they'll play him sort of how they rotated Shockley in for a while. His first few years at UGA, but I don't think he'll be taking the starting job from Frome next year. Micah says, "Is Tool your favorite band?" They're they're probably my favorite rock band if you call that rock music, but they're one of my favorite bands. Banks says, "Is John Gruden actually going to Tennessee?" No. John Gruden is not going to Tennessee. Jackson Freiberger, Lou, are you going to the? No, I'm not going to any of those games this year. Lou, will you make different fan characters? That's probably the question I get asked the most, and I will tell you this: when I make another one, it will probably be a South Carolina fan because that's the most requested. And it might not seem like it when you watch the videos because maybe they're not that good. I don't know, but it takes a lot of work and effort to even come up with how to do the character. And it's not that I don't want to put the work or the effort in, but I'm at 4 right now. 2 I added this year, so I will probably wait until next year to add another one. But there will be more at some point. Let's see. Brenton McGinnis says, "Is Jamari Sawyer coming to UGA?" Yes, I think he is. He's committing in December. and I think he is coming to UGA. So the number one offensive lineman to add to the number one quarterback and the number one running back. I'm way behind on the comments, so I'm scrolling all the way down to the bottom. Jesus, guys. Y'all don't leave too many damn comments. I can't even get to the bottom. Okay, here we go. Owen Watterson is huffing gas again. He says Cox by 90. Screw Georgia. I don't know if you're new to football or special needs, but okay. Joe says, why'd you come up with super fans? Well, it started with Tennessee. I had an idea last year. Tennessee fans were like bipolar people last year. They were up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. You know, they almost lost to App State. They wanted to fire Butch Jones. They hated life, blah, blah, blah. Well, then they turn around and beat Florida. Then they thought they were winning the national championship. Then they turn around and struggle against Miami of Ohio. And they wanted to slit their throat again. And so I had an idea of doing this video like the life of a Tennessee fan from week to week during the football season. And that's how General Valtard came about. I happened to have that mask laying around from an old Halloween party or something. So I said, well, I'll throw this on and act like he's smoking meth or something like that. And that's how that all got started. And then I just added some characters from there. Let's see. Matthew Rowland says, what's up, Lou? What's up, dude? Do you think Tennessee will fire Butch and Lyle this year? Yes, I do. I thought they would fire him. I said last week if they lose to Kentucky, they'll fire him. I'm shocked he still has a job, especially with Florida pulling the trigger on McElwain. You would think Kentucky would want to go ahead and fire Butch and get out in front of Florida on the coaching search, but apparently they're in no hurry. Notre Dame versus Miami. Let's see. Alan Vilvins says, Notre Dame versus Miami thoughts. Notre Dame will kill them. This could be... Notre Dame might win by 40 points. Miami is probably the worst 7-0 team in history. They're terrible. I've watched a lot of the Miami Hurricanes this year for obvious reasons, and they're just not any good. They've got 3 or 4 miracle wins against terrible teams. Their offense is horrible. They do have a decent defense, but they're not going to be able to stop Notre Dame's rushing attack. Notre Dame will win that game big. Is Gibbs a recruiting bust? He's a true freshman. How can you... I don't know how you could even say that. He's a true freshman this year. He only plays in mop-up duty, like most true freshmen. I have no clue why you would even ask that. But so I don't think he is. But you have to wait until he plays before you determine if he's a bust. Let's see. Scrolling back down. Let's see. Rasta Ray shaking head is the same thing. I know them. Oh, I don't know what that was about. Troll accounts maybe. Do I think Tennessee will struggle against Southern Miss? I do, and I'm not knocking Tennessee. Look, I'm past the point of making fun of Tennessee this year. Tennessee has gotten so bad now, it's not even fun making fun of them anymore, and that's just real talk. When you watch their offense, they just have no identity. It's just a mess. So I do think Tennessee will win this game, but I do think they will struggle. Slump God says, do you think Tennessee's quarterback is pretty good? No, I don't think... No. A lot of Tennessee fans think they have elite talent and piss poor coaching. I disagree. I don't think they have elite talent. I do agree they have bad coaching, but I don't think they have elite talent at Tennessee. They definitely don't have the depth they need. I don't think they have elite talent. Who will have a better college career, Fields or Lawrence? That's hard to say. That could go either way. Better pro career, if you had to nail me down right now, I would say Lawrence. Lawrence is one of the best high school quarterbacks ever. The guy is as close to can't miss as I've ever seen in high school. But a lot of times these running around quarterbacks have better college careers than pro-style passers do. So that remains to be seen at this point. D'Angelo Gibbs versus Quincy Mauger. Who do you think is more talented? What is this? What is all this with D'Angelo Gibbs? The guy, he's a true freshman. He hasn't played. So I don't know. I like Gibbs. What do you do when basketball comes around? I do make some basketball videos on here. I don't do like a pregame and a postgame for every single basketball game like I do for football. But if there's something worth talking about, I do make a basketball video. Mark Fox is a disgrace. The fact that he still has a job is mind-boggling. That tells me that Greg McGarity, our athletic director, is not interested in having a winning basketball program. It's just absolutely pathetic. The guy's been there 9 years, never won an NCAA tournament. Don't even get me started. Search Uncle Lou and Mark Fox if you want to know my thoughts on that. But I do make videos all during the off season though. So you guys that just started watching this year during football season, you don't have to leave when the season ends. I do videos year round. They might not all be football related because a lot of times in the middle of May there's nothing football to talk about, but I can promise you one thing. If you watch an Uncle Lou video, you will be entertained, guaranteed. Or your money back even. Chocolate Poof, DeAndre Swift opinion. I think he is unreal. Way better than what I thought he would be. I thought maybe we'd be lucky to get a little bit out of him this year, like in third down situations or whatever, but the guy is absolutely unreal. I told somebody the other day, I think it was my dad I was talking to. I'm not saying DeAndre Swift is the next Barry Sanders, so don't misunderstand what I'm telling you here, but that's who he reminds me of when I watch him play. He's got every PlayStation move. The spin move, the hurdle, the juke, the stop and go, the jump cut. I mean, he's got it all, and he is a lot of fun to watch with the ball in his hands. And I think he's got potential to put up some huge numbers at UGA in the next couple of years. I'm real high on DeAndre Swift. Falcons fan forever says, "Are you still a Lions fan?" Yeah, unfortunately, I have to remain a Lions fan for the remainder of this football season. So, yep, still a Lions fan. One pride. How do I feel about Miami? Like their team, I guess you mean. Look, they're a good team. It's hard to knock. I mean, they're 7-0. They're better now than they have been in the last decade or so, for sure. Florida State is terrible this year. They got a miracle win against them. Georgia Tech's average like they always are. They got a miracle win against them. UNC has only won 1 or 2 games this year. They got a turnover. Miami's defense caused a turnover at the end of that game to save that game. They just have a series of lucky wins. They're not an elite team. They haven't dominated anybody they've played. And I don't think there's a single team in the top 15 that Miami could beat. And that's fixing to get proven here in the next couple of weeks. USC or UF. I'd have to pick South Carolina if you make me pick now. Now, I'm not going to make a pick on that game now. I want to see what Florida looks like this weekend now that McElwain is gone. But anytime you have a coaching change in the middle of the year, that's never a good sign. And if you're a South Carolina fan, you should know that from when Spurrier deuced out on you in the middle of the season, and you saw how that ended up for you. Carver Parton, how long will Kirby be at Georgia? I mean, this is his second year. He's 8-0, number 2 in the country. So at this point, he'll be there as long as he wants to. Deshaun Watson, he'll be the NFL Rookie of the Year. The guy's lighting it up. He's throwing for over 300 yards a game, scoring touchdowns on the ground and in the air. He's got the Houston Texans looking unbeatable. I figured Deshaun would do okay, and I don't understand why he dropped so far in the draft, but he did. And the Houston Texans, I think it worked out good though for Deshaun that he dropped like he did, because he went to a decent team. Houston's not, it's not like he went to Cleveland or Buffalo, or one of these teams that's just been in the cellar forever. He went to Houston, which was a pretty good team, and he's reaping the benefits of that now, and he looks really, really good. Sam W., how do you feel about UCF right now? Everybody's talking about UCF right now. Of course, they're undefeated. And South Florida lost, right, to Houston last week. So Central Florida's the last unbeaten of the group of 5 teams. And, of course, their coach, Scott Frost, is one of the hottest names you hear floating around for all these head coaching jobs coming up next year. I don't see Central Florida losing another game the rest of the year. I said last week on my prediction video they'd go undefeated until they played South Florida. And then I didn't say whether they would win or lose that game, but now seeing South Florida lose to Houston, I'd have to say Central Florida is probably going to go undefeated and make a New Year's Six bowl. If you're a Georgia fan, why does that matter to you? Well, if Georgia... Let's assume Georgia loses the SEC championship game to Alabama and doesn't make the playoff. then we're most likely going to be playing UCF in the Peach Bowl. So there you go. Or Alabama. More likely Alabama will be playing them in the Peach Bowl after we beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. Cam wants to know if I'm gay. No, but it is 2017, Cam. I'm not sure if you knew that. So calling someone gay, not really an insult in 2017, unless you're in middle school. I guess maybe it's still funny if you're 11 or 12. If you're older than 11 or 12 and you're calling someone gay as an insult, then you have serious life issues that you need to work out. UNCLELOU, whatever, 145. Boy, y'all got some names. Can we get a LouTube shirt that has General Voltar on it with his "Will Work for Meth" hat on? I'll have to see if I can get my guy to come up with something for that. What's with the 144p potato? Is it that bad? I don't know. I had to turn the settings down on my camera. I had the settings on my camera turned up to like Ultra HD, and so the stream was lagging when I did it. So I turned the settings down, but I don't know. Maybe I turned them down too low. Y'all have to tell me. I don't know, or I'll watch it back later and maybe I'll turn it back up a little. How confident are you with Frome against Alabama? Not very confident. Not that I don't think he can do it. It's just that I haven't seen him do it. There's really only been one game where they let him throw, and that was against Missouri. Other than that, the Notre Dame game, he had I think 30 attempts. He was something like 17 of 30 for 130, 140 yards, something like that. So it's not that he's thrown it a lot and looked bad. That's not what has me worried. It's just that he hasn't had to throw it very much. So, that's the question. What's going to happen if we play a team that shuts the running game down and Frome has to win the game with his arm? Well, no one knows, really. We'll have to just wait and see what happens when that time comes. Ezekiel Elliott just got suspended again. Yeah, everybody knew that was coming. How do you feel about Malik Davis? I don't even know who that is. Who is Malik Davis? That's not? I don't know who that is. Frome will start next. Ethan says Frome or Fields next year. Frome will start, but Fields will play some. That's my opinion. Let's see. Matthew Kirk, is South Carolina Georgia's biggest threat in the SEC East? There is no threat in the SEC East this year. I think Kentucky and South Carolina, I think both have 2 losses. Is that right? SEC losses. Georgia has none. But Georgia's winning the East. I mean, come on. Jay Johnson says, Lou, what do you think about Catalina starting for the Redskins? I saw that last night, and I could not believe it. I was watching that game. Actually, I wasn't even really watching it. It was on. And I think I was doing something on my phone or something, and I heard the announcer by something, blah, 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 Tyler Catalina making his first start, blah, blah, blah. And it was like a delayed reaction thing. Like, a minute later, I looked up at the TV, and I was like, did they just say Tyler Catalina? And I had to rewind the DVR, and it sure was. I couldn't believe it. It was Tyler Catalina. I couldn't believe it. Worst left tackle I've ever seen at UGA in my lifetime, period, and bar none. We didn't play a single team last year that had a defensive end or outside linebacker that Tyler Catalina could block. I cannot believe he's on an NFL roster. Lou, do you have a favorite non-Georgia player? If you're talking about this year, I like Saquon Barkley. I get hated on all the time in Georgia groups for liking him. People want to argue that Chubb and Michelle are better running backs than him. I get it. They are better running backs than him, but Barkley's a better football player. He does it all: kick returns, receiving. So I like him this year. One Matt Crack says, do you smoke weed? No, I smoked weed one time when I was, I don't even remember, 20 or 21 years old. And it didn't really, it just didn't do anything for me. I never smoked it again. What's your body count? It's currently sitting at about 11. Florida State or Florida? Wow, what a terrible game that's going to be, huh? Caleb Film wants to know FSU or Florida. If I had to pick right now, I would probably pick Florida State just because of the coaching thing at Florida. But again, that's one of those things, just like with Florida versus South Carolina. I got to wait and see what Florida looks like this week against Mizzou. And look, how much are we going to find out against Mizzou? They're terrible. But I got to see at least what they look like. Who knows what kind of changes Randy Shannon's going to make? Who's going to play quarterback? I don't know. Maybe they put Zaire in there. I don't know. So too early for me to try to pick that Florida State-Florida game. Benny Snell Jr. for president. Benny Snell Jr. is a good running back. Really good running back. You got to give him credit. Can't take anything away from him. Watch LouTube Yeti cup stickers. Yeah, I did make a video about Yeti coolers one time that was pretty popular and got shared around quite a bit. If you want to watch it, just search Uncle Lou Yeti and it'll come up. Let's see. Question. Dirty Bird Jamal says, have you heard from Magnum lately? I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I talk to him every once in a while on there. He's not as active on YouTube or social media or whatever as he was in years past. Volunteer Roadshow, do you think your Notre Dame win is the best win in the country? It's one of the top 2 or 3 wins. It's the best win of any undefeated team, for sure. The Ohio State win over Penn State was pretty good, but Ohio State beat Penn State at home. That was a home game for Ohio State. We beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. There are some other teams that have some good wins, but they're not undefeated, so it's hard to say. So I think that the Georgia win at Notre Dame is definitely one of the best in the country this year. Alabama man says, no, Notre Dame isn't good. Yeah, you say that, but and see, here's what Alabama fan says. Notre Dame's not any good. They haven't played anybody. Okay, well, you say Notre Dame hasn't played anybody. Well, Notre Dame has blowed out everybody they've played, with the exception of UGA, who they lost to by 1. Notre Dame's schedule is about 10 times harder than what Alabama has faced this year. Okay, Notre Dame beat a 6-1 NC State team. They beat a 5-1 Southern Cal team. Now, I'm not saying these teams that Notre Dame has beat are elite. What I'm saying is these teams that Notre Dame has beat is better than Fresno State, Colorado State, Texas A&M, and Vandy, okay, which are your best wins, Alabama fan. So you can say Notre Dame is no good all you want to, but the point is they're 8-0, and they're beating everybody, but they play by 30 and 40 points, and they're getting ready to beat another undefeated team in Miami. So that just is what it is. You can say Notre Dame's no good till the cows come home. Look, Notre Dame is likely making the college football playoff. I don't see it. Who's going to beat Notre Dame? Miami? No. Stanford? No. Notre Dame is probably winning out, going 11-1 and making the college football playoff. And then y'all can still cry about how they're no good, I guess. Notre Dame versus Georgia Part 2. That could definitely happen. Do you think Kentucky won a national championship in basketball? No, not this year. I don't. Denise Otis says, Uncle Lou, if Kentucky had a good offensive line and a better defense, they would be a deadly team. Yeah, there's a lot of teams in America that if they had a better offensive line, a better defense, a better quarterback, better running backs, better receivers, and a better field goal kicker could win a national title. Law Tide, do you think Alabama and Georgia can have a game like they did in 2012? Yeah, I don't. If you want me to be serious for a minute, then I will. I think that Georgia-Alabama game right now could go either way. Both teams have elite defenses. Both teams have elite running games. Neither team has shown the ability to be able to pass the ball. Okay? Now, I get it. Jalen Hurts is a good running quarterback. In fact, Hurts is like top 10 in the SEC in rushing. So I get that. So maybe you give the edge to Alabama there over Fromm. Although Fromm can be mobile at times, he's definitely not what you would consider a dual threat quarterback like Hurts is. But Hurts is not a good passer. Alabama does have a better receiver than anybody UGA has with that Ridley guy, but that's all Alabama has. Ridley has, I think, twice as many catches as anybody else on the team. And Hurts is not a good passer at all. Last time I looked, he had completed like 1 of 20 passes over 20 yards or something like that. So I think whichever team is able to throw the ball probably wins that game. And I do think if it was played right now, I think it would be a close game. That's as real as I'm getting. From now on, I'm just going back to calling them average and reminding them that we're going to beat them in a submission. Lou, who should be ranked higher, Ohio State or Clemson? I would have to go with Ohio State right now. Ohio State lost to Oklahoma. Clemson lost to Syracuse. I give the edge to Ohio State there. I would say Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Penn State, Clemson. I don't know. You'll find out tomorrow when I do my poll. Al Burke says Notre Dame's going to beat Georgia in the playoffs. There's not very much chance of that happening, sir, for a couple of reasons. Number one, we beat you at Notre Dame. If we play in the playoffs, it'll be a neutral site game. Number two, that was Jake Fromm's first ever college start. He's a true freshman, and it was a road start. So ask yourself this. Do you think he's better or worse than he was when he made his first college start ever and didn't play that well against you in terms of passing the ball? Your running attack is the same now as it was when we played you. Elite, okay? You're averaging 300-something yards a game rushing. Notre Dame has like the 4th or 5th best rushing offense in America. We held you to 60 or 70 yards. That's what would happen again if we played. But we would move the ball better than we did the first go-round. And if we played Notre Dame on a neutral field right now, we'd win by 10 to 14 points, and that's just the reality of the situation. Don't call me a hater. I've been high on Notre Dame ever since we beat them, mainly because I need Notre Dame to be good because it makes UGA look good. But don't call me a hater. I've been high on Notre Dame, and Georgia would beat them by 10 to 14 if they played right now. That's just the way it is. Do you have a second favorite college football town? No. Do you have Clemson in the playoff? If I had to pick the playoff right now, I would pick the winner of Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Clemson. That's who I would pick right now. Augusta University versus Georgia Southern in basketball. Any thoughts? I'll pick Augusta University since that's where I went. How about that? Uncle Lou's alma mater. Yeah, I think Oklahoma's going to get left out. I'm not saying it's fair. That's what I think would happen, though. I think Oklahoma's going to lose another game, and I don't think Ohio State is. Benjamin Stark says, was McElwain fired because the AD found out it was him with the shark? Boy, some of y'all are really arguing in this comment section here, huh? Billy Cole wants a Watch Bluetooth bumper sticker. Do people still put bumper stickers on their car? Okay, I didn't know. Paul Warren says, you guys need to talk about God instead of sports. Obviously a Tennessee fan. No reason for him to talk about sports. Do I think UJ is going 12-0? Yes, I do. I told you that in the preseason. I made a video in the preseason called UGA is beating you. You should watch that video if you haven't seen it. It's kind of long. I think it's 12 or 13 minutes long. It's called UGA is beating you. But I go through our entire schedule and give you the reason why Georgia is beating that team. And so far I'm 8 for 8. So Alabama man says he swears to God he wants to smack. I tell you, okay, Alabama man, type your address right now in the comment section, and I will end this video, get in my car, and drive to you right now. I don't think you have the balls to do it. Type your address in the comments right now. You don't have the balls to do it. You're all talk. You're that monkey. This is Alabama man. He doesn't have the balls to do it. Kirby is going to Florida. Not unless it's to get a 5-star recruit, sir. You forget it. He's not going there to coach. Will the SEC championship be better than the national championship? It could be. You could have a 2012 situation where the SEC championship is basically the national title game, and whoever wins it just rolls through the playoffs. You could have a situation like that. We'll see. Patrick Bruce, what's up, dude? Of course you can get a shout out. Why hasn't Tennessee fired Butch Jones? Great question. I don't know. Will you go to the national championship game if UGA makes it? I'm not going to lie, William Dobson. I would love to go to the national title game if Georgia makes it, and I may not get another chance in my lifetime, and it's in Atlanta, which is an hour and a half from me. But I probably will not be able to afford to go. That's just the reality of the situation. I don't have a hookup or a connection like that at UGA to get a ticket for even face value, which would probably be a couple $100. That would be no problem. But to have to buy one on the secondhand market for thousands of dollars, I couldn't. I would probably get kicked out of the house if I did that. So probably not, but we'll see. Trevor Ahmad Al-Masri says, will Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields play each other in the national championship? It could happen. I mean, I don't see Clemson falling off a cliff anytime soon, and I think Georgia's only getting better. So that could happen. What would happen if Tim Tebow became the Florida head coach? What would happen? They would be terrible, I can tell you that. What do you think Auburn and Georgia end score will be? I'll give a prediction on that game next week. I haven't thought enough about it to try to give a score prediction. Yeah, that's what I thought, Alabama, man. You're not going to leave your real address because you're all talk, no action, sir. All talk, no action. I should try getting a press pass. Yeah, wouldn't that go over well? Yeah. That would go over great, I'm sure. Micah says he's read a bunch of articles saying Georgia could lose the SEC championship and still get into the playoff. I think that's a very slim possibility. I think the playoff committee looks at a conference championship game as the first round of the playoffs, and so they look at it like if you lose, you're out. I do think it's possible for the winner to get in if there are some two-loss conference champions. So if somehow Ohio State were to lose another game, and then still win the Big Ten with 2 losses, or if Clemson were to win another game, or lose another game and win the ACC with 2 losses, or something like that, then maybe. But I can't see a one-loss. I can't see the loser of the SEC title game getting into the playoff over a one-loss champion of another conference. But I could be wrong. Uncle Lou are outside your house? Yeah, I'm outside. Yeah. My kids are asleep inside, so I can't do this. I can't do this inside. They have school in the morning. Can't do this in there. Final score prediction for South Carolina and Georgia. What did I say a minute ago? 38-10 or something like that. 37-10. FSU or Tennessee, if they played, FSU would win that game. You still go to the Masters? I'm trying to get down there this year. I've been a bunch of times. The last time I went, I think, was 2015. 2 years ago, I think. When you live here, the Masters is not that big of a deal because you've probably gone so many times. It's not that big of a deal anymore. I know it's like the greatest golf tournament in the world or whatever. I'm not that big on golf to start with, but I've been a bunch of times just because I live here. Best restaurant in Augusta, T-Bones or, let's see, T-Bones or Reinhardt's. T-Bones is like a steakhouse type place, and Reinhardt's is sort of like a seafood type place. Those are my 2 favorite restaurants that aren't major chain restaurants, Nathan Morris, HUNCLELOU, love your videos. Do you think Georgia has a better chance of winning a national title next year? No, I'm tired of the next year. We're 8-0. Anytime you're 8-0, you have a pretty good chance. The odds of going 8-0 are never in your favor. So I'll take this year over next year for now. Jerry Lay says, "Do you drink bleach?" Well, I haven't had to this year. Although, if something weird happens and we lose to South Carolina, I will definitely consider it. Uncle Lou equals Lyle. That might be the meanest thing anybody's ever said to me, sir. Jalen Hurts versus Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson can actually throw the ball, so a little bit, way better than Hurts anyway. Georgia #1 in college football poll tomorrow. I think Georgia will be #1 in the college football playoff poll tomorrow. I'll have the Uncle Lou poll out in the morning. Well, I say the morning. I'll film it in the morning. I'll probably upload it around 10 or 11. Who's the worst starter on UGA? Ugh. Who's the worst starter? Probably one of the offensive linemen, but I don't really want to name one. But it's hard to say anybody on the defense is the worst. They're elite. Some of our receivers struggle with drops from time to time. It's definitely not any of our running backs. The offensive line has played better than I thought. I mean, I'll tell you what the weakest part of our team is quarterback. Regardless of how good you think Jake Fromm is, our defense is definitely better than our passing game. Let's see. I'm still way behind on these comments here. They just come in. UJ or Penn State? I think UJ would beat Penn State, and I don't think it would be close. Alabama or UJ, either one would shut Barkley down. Georgia and Alabama's defense is built really to stop an offense like Penn State. I don't think that would be a competitive game. Penn State against an elite defense would not work out well. Arrowbound says, shout out to Lakeside High School, the Panthers. Uncle Lou went to Westside. So, and UJ's got one Lakeside player on the team, Roundtree. He hasn't got much playing time yet, but we'll see what happens down the road. You should make a rant video on Tennessee as General Baltar. Well, if they ever fire Butch Jones, maybe the General will have something to say about it. I'm pretty sure that he will. Let's see. How long until Texas is back to being a contender? I'm done with them. I was high on Texas in the preseason. They've had good recruiting classes the last 2 or 3 years. I was convinced Tom Herman was the real deal. I was high on Tom Herman. And they just haven't looked good. Now, maybe it'll be like a Kirby Smart type of thing where he gets it turned around in year 2. So maybe I'll give him one more year. But I'm really disappointed in Texas this year. And I'm not a Texas fan. I hate Texas and I hate the Big 12. I just was a believer in Tom Herman. UJ versus OSU was at Ohio State. I think that would be a good game. #1 pick in the NFL draft. I got to wait and see which team has the #1 pick. It depends. It could be a quarterback. A lot of quarterbacks coming out this year. Could be an offensive lineman. It just depends on what team gets that first pick. NC State or Clemson? I think Clemson wins. Too much offense. What is Uncle Lou doing for Halloween? That's a good question. Of course, I have young kids, so they'll go trick-or-treating. They're in 3rd grade and 5th grade, Lou Jr. and Luann. So they'll go trick-or-treating with Mrs. Lou. Mrs. Lou will take them around the neighborhood and whatever to get their candy. I have this whole thing I set up in the in the driveway out front. I moved the cars out of the way, and I have this whole thing I set up in the driveway out front, outside of the garage where I live. I have this whole thing I set up in the driveway out there, and y'all probably have seen my strobe lights and smoke machine and all that. I use them in the videos sometimes. I actually have those for Halloween, not for LouTube. But anyway, I set up this whole thing out there, and I just spend all night on Halloween scaring the shit out of these little kids that come around. A lot of them will come to the driveway, and they won't even come down the driveway to get the candy. They'll send their older brother or whatever, or their mom down to get the candy. They're too scared or they're crying or something. But yeah, I have a lot of fun with that. Alabama man wants to fight you at PetSmart, has to buy some fish food. You're not the one No, you're not the one that wanted to fight me at Dollar General, whatever that was it? Or no, the paper plate aisle at Walmart. Frome or Eason, if our opponent stops our running game, and keep in mind Jim Chaney is our host. Jim Chaney, look, Jim Chaney might be the best assistant coach in college football this year. The guy has turned our offense around. I never understood the hate Jim Chaney got even last year. Not easy for an offensive coordinator to play call with a freshman quarterback. You're limited in what you can do. But anyway, he's done a great job this year mixing up the play calling. Inside run, outside run, a lot of zones, a lot of RPOs, passes when we need them, that sort of thing. I guess you're asking me if they shut our run game down, will they put Eason in? Someone asked that when I first started. I'm not sure what they would do. I really can't see a situation where they would take Frome out and put Eason in unless we're down by a couple of scores or something. And even then, I'm not too sure they would do it. Should Mark Richt dress up as a head coach for Halloween? Why not? He dressed up as one for 15 years in Athens. Do I think Holyfield could transfer? Yeah, him or Harrion, I think, could be gone. Mark Stoops is going to run Kirby Smart out of Georgia. What? Mark's okay. It must be getting late. The trolls are out now. What does Natty Back Steve had to say about the Florida firing? Maybe we can get him on video one day this week. Auburn or Texas A&M? I'd have to take Auburn right now. Texas A&M disappointed me last week against Mississippi State. I picked them to win that game. They didn't even show up, so I don't know if they've given up or what. Sumlin may be out of a job if he loses this game. What did you think about Aaron Murray? I would take Aaron Murray as my quarterback in college every day of the week. Adam, who do you think would be a better NFL player, Chubb or Sony? I argued about this earlier on a Georgia page on Facebook. I think Sony Michel will be a better NFL player than Nick Chubb, and I think Sony Michel will get drafted before Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb. He's one of my favorite players at UJ in probably the last 10 years. But the bottom line is the NFL doesn't care that Chubb is a really nice person from Chubbtown or whatever. Sony Michel is a 3-down back. He can play all 3 downs in the NFL. Chubb, I think, will only be a 1st and 2nd down back. I don't think Chubb will be a pass-catching running back in the NFL. Michel will. On top of that, Sony Michel can play in the slot, and he can return kicks if a team needed him to. So he can play 3 positions. If he plays running back, he can play all 3 downs. I think he's just more valuable to an NFL team than Nick Chubb is. But I think they're both going to have a chance in the NFL. Have I eaten at Groucho's Deli? I don't think so, no. Was that like a sandwich shop or something? Who's winning the Heisman? If I had to pick right now, I'd say Saquon Barkley. Who's better, Kirby or Butch Jones? Whoever asked that should slap themselves in the back of the neck. I really want to meet Nick Chubb. Okay. Am I going to start the call-in show back? I wish I could have done that during the year. I just didn't have time to do it. That's why I started it back right before the season. I wanted to be able to do it during the year. I know it would have been a lot of fun to do that, and it would have been a popular thing here on YouTube. And I really, really, really wanted to do it. And it just didn't work out for me to be able to do it. I had too many different things going on, some involving YouTube, some not. And I had to do away with something, and unfortunately, the call-in show, Tell Me How You Feel, was what I decided had to go. I haven't given up on it completely, so stay tuned, and we'll see if we can get some things going with that. But yeah, that really sucked because I was looking forward to doing that. Jake Anderson wants to FaceTime with Uncle Lou. Worst loss you've ever experienced as a UGA fan? Oh, God. The loss to Florida in 2002 that cost us a national title game was pretty bad. The loss to Tennessee and South Carolina in 2007 that cost us a shot at the national title was pretty bad. The loss in 2012 to Alabama that cost us a shot at the national title was pretty bad. So those are all pretty high up on the list of terrible losses. Frome or Eason? I still think Eason is the better passer. Frome may be a better decision maker. Frome may understand the game better. Frome may be all these types of things. Eason is a better pure passer. Any thoughts on Hayden Hurst? I know I should know who Hayden Hurst is, but I'm sorry. I'm either drawing a blank or I just don't have a clue who it is. What team do you want Nick Chubb drafted to? I really don't care. I don't follow the NFL that much as far as teams go. I'm big into fantasy football. I do some fantasy football leagues every year. I even host a few. So I keep up with all the players, in the NFL and things like that, but I'm not much of a team guy, so I really don't care. Will the offense change when Fields comes in? Not that much, I don't think. We run a lot of RPOs now. We may run, a handful more with him in the game, but we run a lot of that stuff now with Frome, so I don't think it would change a whole lot. And unlike Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields can actually throw the ball. So Saban might bench Jalen for Tua. Yeah, I mean, you just watch what happens. Whenever Alabama loses a game, whenever that happens, whether it's this week against LSU or a couple of weeks against Auburn or the SEC championship game at Georgia or a playoff, whatever. Whenever Alabama loses a championship game, all these Alabama fans are going to come out of the woodwork and blame Jalen Hurts, because that's what they did in the Clemson game. They already blamed him. They wanted to run him out. They wanted to fire Nick Saban and revoke Jalen Hurts' scholarship after that Clemson game. Yeah, the live stream will be uploaded after it's over, Patrick. It usually takes a little while for YouTube to get it uploaded or whatever, but it will be on YouTube afterwards. And I have to end the video. My phone just flashed up with the thing saying I'm on 5% battery, and we've been going for well over an hour here. So again, sorry for not doing that video this morning. It was sort of out of my control. I wanted to do it. Some things came up and I couldn't do it, so I'm here for you now. I will have 2 videos for you tomorrow, though. I promise. You can write that down if you need to. Uncle Lou won't steer you wrong, mostly. Yep. Anyway, I appreciate all the questions and the comments and the back and forth and all that. I love talking football with you guys, and if I could do more of these, I would, and maybe we will. But anyway, thanks for watching. Go Dogs. I hope y'all have a great day tomorrow, and I'll see y'all in the morning.